Alright, welcome back. Part 2 of Eylau. Opening shots have been fired, maneuvering has taken place. But before I get to that, some of the stuff that has happened here is about as screwy as my laundry experience today. So I go to the laundromat and start noticing that I've done 2 washers, and one washer has a different time on it than the other one, and I started them at the same time. Then I realized that there's a sock stuck in it. I can't open the door to get the sock unstuck. It's leaking water everywhere. The lady that works there thinks this is hilarious. And I'm not sure if the clothes are getting cleaned, washed, what's going on. But it was quite an event. At the end of the day, the clothes were fine, got cleaned, so I guess no harm done. But yeah, that type of screwiness, you know, if you use that sock stuck in the door as a metaphor for what's been going on here, you might get a sense of what's going on better. So, activation phase, you're going to roll 1 die, subtract that from, well, if you're French, the French Napoleon, who has a number 5. He's going to activate a little bit more often than the Russians here. In fact, the first 2 segments of the turn, and turns are broken down by activation. French went twice in a row as far as 4 activations the first segment of the turn, 4 more activations the second segment of the turn, and the Russians didn't get any activations on the first or second segments of that first turn. Then the table switched a little bit. The French got 1 activation, and then the Russians got 3 for the next segment. And you know, considering the French had 8 activations to none for the Russians is significant, especially when you consider that a lot should have happened, but many things did not go well for the French as far as combat and rolling the dice, particularly in this area. If you can notice, the Russians have now moved in, mainly because of French retreats of their own doing, so that kind of backfired a little bit. So let's see, the 4th segment, French got 4 activations and the Russian 3 activations, so that was a healthy active segment. And then the French got 0 activations to the Russians 3, and then the French got 1 activation to the Russians 0, and then the French got 0. So that ended the turn whenever both sides consecutively failed to get an activation. That ends the turn, and that's what happened. So, highlights of the thing. I don't know if I'd really call it a highlight, but the backfiring of what the French intended over here is a little concerning. Nothing's lost yet, but it's a little concerning. The Russians performed a stupid attack here, which was just, they got obliterated in that attack through a French defense. Over here, the French cavalry charged a couple Cossacks and blew them out of the water. It wasn't hard to do. Those Cossacks are only half strength each, so they're really only good for cavalry charges and wreaking havoc on flanks and things of that nature. What else? I think that about covers it. I'm not sure why, but I've succumbed to the mindset, insofar as the Russians go, of kind of holding and defending, not doing too much attacking. The French are heavy set in a heavy set attack mentality, so there's kind of a contrast there. I've got some area here that needs to be bridged. Again, the lack of covering in this area is due to the French being able to move far enough during that turn and the Russians again being reluctant to move forward, just kind of holding. Same here. French, trust me, did everything they could to break through in that area and just got repelled repeatedly, other than that one little segment where the Russians attacked and got obliterated. So I need to decide if I'm going to close this gap as the Russians are just kind of hang back. You need to have two, this is cavalry, so you need to have like two segments between you to do a cavalry charge, so there's no point in cavalry closing such that they're adjacent to an enemy unit, so I may just leave that like that, but then it seems awful odd just to let the French pour in there and fill that up, so we'll see how that goes. So that all went fine and dandy. As far as casualties, I want to say about even, and use these little arrows from Risk. In fact, the cubes are from Risk, and again, the long rectangles are from Napoleon's Triumph. These little plastic arrows that I use as activation markers and directional things are also from a different edition of Risk. But what I need to do at this point before I can end the turn is decide who can activate in the next turn. Now, if you are an infantry division that is adjacent to an enemy infantry division, you cannot just remove your activation markers. Everybody else can. To remove your activation marker in this particular situation, you have to roll, I guess you call it a morale check. So that's what we're going to do. So for this 3, which is Legrand's division, I'm going to need a 5 or less to remove that. No problem. Now if I failed, he would not be able to activate in the following turn, and I kind of like that. The combat system is pretty abstracted. You're just rolling a die for each strength point. There's not a whole lot of modifiers for variations of forces. So again, your infantry, your Jaeger, your artillery, you're just going to lump all that together and add it in little dice. You do have cavalry charges, you do have artillery bombardments, but I'm noticing a lot of things that have just been kind of condensed when it comes to combat. And you know, that's fine, because the thing is slow enough, and if you slow it down anymore with fiddliness, then it's going to just stagnate and not go anywhere. So I guess I'm okay with that. So this guy, number 5, who's that? That is Desjardins. Let's see what he does. He's going to need a 9 or less, so I don't even know why I'm rolling for him. He's fine. He will always pass his morale check, at least at this point. And then number 8, last one for the French, is Saint-Hilaire, and he's going to need a 3 or less, so wow, he got it. So all of the French will be able to, or eligible to activate in the next turn. Now as far as the Russians go, we've got a 7. Who's 7? That is Sumov. He needs a 4 or less, and he got it. So he is good to go. And then 3 is Essen. Essen got a 5. What did Essen need? Essen needed a 7 or less, so he is fine. 2 to go. And I like this aspect. I like this, everybody went, or whoever was able to maneuver fire did so, hit the reset button. I like the aspect of not possibly being able to hit the reset button. Somebody possibly not being able to act again in the following turn. Dig that a lot. So number 5, that is, I can't read this well, Komsky. And he needs a 6 or less, so he's automatic. There's no point in rolling. And of course, as they go down in strength or morale, will too go down. And finally, number 6 is fine. So everybody gets, will be eligible to activate in the following turn. What does that leave? By way of consideration, that leaves, again, I need to concern myself as both players with these two open areas. Use them, whoever is able to activate to the best of their advantage. Also, advance a turn, so it is now going to be the 9th hour, 9 a.m., and also the first turn in which French receive reinforcements. So I mean, the French, they really do, they look set up pretty good here. They're going to be alright. They're going to get more reinforcements at the 10th hour, the 11th hour. As far as the Russians, I think it's just a matter of holding out, especially when you consider that they do get reinforcements at 3, 4, and 5 o'clock hour. So there's no point in ramming yourself into oblivion here. I think playing it patient and holding out against the French is the name of the game. And again, the objective here, victory conditions are such that you really need to have, it's the amount of casualties a side can inflict. So the greater a side inflicts, the better for that side as far as victory conditions. There's no cities that need to be held, or geographical, specific geographical areas, etc. So I think that's it. I need to brush up on how these reinforcements are going to enter the turn, and go from there. Everything else is kicking in nicely and becoming relatively automatic as far as the rules go. So occasionally have to flip back to the rules and check for some things, but it's easily found, and I'm not having any problems with these rules, to be honest with you. I know there's an upgraded version of these online, a living rules version that Compass Games has put out, and to be honest with you, I guess I did have to access these once or twice for a couple questions, but for the most part, these rules here are, for the most part, sufficient. So that's about it. Till next time, we'll see how it goes. It's about even, I guess. The French have been pushed back mostly in this area. I expect they will do well. I don't know if this is to the north, but we'll call it, for all intents and purposes, the north. I expect them to do well in the north. And again, depending on where, I'll have to check where this first group of reinforcements comes in. They're going to be fine. Again, Russians just need to hold out. So that's it. Till next time. Talk to you guys later.